cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close. He's given him. He's given him. Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday.
Welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 73 of the show. And today we are once again talking about soccer. I'm just again joined by myself. I'll promise to get some more guests on in the future, but being a bit hectic at the moment, so just easy to whip them up myself. I did say last episode that I was going to be doing another soccer episode, which is true, but I said I was going to maybe do a European transfer window, but that's not true. I was having a look at it, but didn't feel comfortable talking about it because truth be told, I haven't watched too much of the other leagues. I've watched a few mini matches and stuff on TV, but so I thought I've watched pretty much every Premier League game that I can due to time zones. Can't watch every single one, but I've watched most that I can. And so I thought it'd be more fitting if I just stuck to what I actually know because, I don't make much sense anyway when I talk about the things I know, but at least I'm making some sense. So I'm just going to it's been basically a month since we started the Premier League, maybe 3.5 weeks or something. First international break, so I thought it'd be a good time to have a bit of a recap of what's happened and, just analyse the situation. I don't think it's going to be the longest episode, but that's all right. We love our hour and a half one, so sometimes it's not the worst to balance that out with, a 30-minute up. But to start us off, I'm going to go through, as I always do, I like to do some awards. It helps just be a vehicle for the combo. So most impressive teams in the start of the Premier League so far. I know this is boring and it's obvious, but I'm going to start with Everton. They've just been sensational, haven't they? They haven't, apart from Tottenham, they haven't played the toughest sides, and they got a bit of luck. They were beating West Brom, but they actually weren't looking too great. And then there was Kieran Gibbs' red card, and there was Slaven Bilic got sent off, and shit kind of hit the fan. But at the end of the day, they're 4 from 4, and you can't really complain about that. But yeah, they've looked awesome. I was looking at their schedule to come. They've got Liverpool next, the Merseyside derby. That's going to be a big match. Last few years, it's been a bit dull, the Merseyside derby, to be honest. They haven't been blowouts or anything. So, Everton have always overperformed what you'd expect them to do. But this one, they're probably the more informed team, to be honest. Liverpool haven't looked too good, really, since lockdown. So, I think that'll be a really interesting match. But then after that, they've got Southampton, Newcastle, Man United, Fulham, Leeds, Burnley. So we could be seeing Everton, right up there come December or something, however long those games take us till, mid-November, because they're all winnable games. I don't think they'll go through undefeated in that. That would be pretty impressive, but I definitely think we could be seeing them in the top 4, top 2, maybe even first for quite a while. I'm not really one guy who bites into these things too much. I'm pretty reserved in my calls. I don't think they're going to be top 4 or anything, but I predicted them to come 9th, and that's probably looking unlikely at this point if they keep it up. And honestly, the teams who I'd predicted to finish above them, a lot of them aren't looking too great. Like your Wolves, they're not looking great. Leicester, they're looking all right, but maybe not as good as Everton. Tottenham, Liverpool aren't going to finish below them, but they're not looking good either. But yeah, I just think I'm not going too hard on the call because it's a long season, the Premier League season, but they've comfortably won. I love the expected goals stat, so I'll be using that a lot today. They've comfortably won every match on expected goals. I think the closest was Tottenham, where they had 0.6 more expected goals or something. So there's been no flukes. There's not really any clear weaknesses in the side. Great transfer window. Best defence in the league right now on expected goals and goals conceded in real life. My only concern is injuries. I think they are one big injury away from dropping in quality quite a bit. I don't think they'll go from a top 4 team to a bottom 4 team or anything outrageous like that, but I think it'll definitely take the sting out of them if a Calvert-Lewin, a Richarlison, a James gets injured, or even down the back if a Michael Keane or a Luca Digne gets injured. They've got quite a few key players where if they get injured, but so do a lot of teams, but if one of them gets injured, we could see their form drop off quite a bit. But basically a 10 out of 10 month from Everton so far, and we'll see how they go from here on in. Next up, I've got West Ham. Everyone was pretty harsh on them, I thought, in the preseason. I know there was a lot of off-field stuff, but I saw a few predictions saying they were going to get relegated. But I think they've got quite a good amount of quality in that squad, and some people can forget that sometimes. They've had a few big transfer windows in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's brought a lot of quality to the side. For example, you got Pablo Fornals, didn't do much last year. This season, in 4 matches, he's already got a goal and 2 assists. Jared Bowen, they signed him last Christmas. He's got 3 goals. So some of their signings from previous windows, although they didn't have the biggest window this transfer period, I think I rated them last in my last episode. They're starting to produce more than what they have in the past. So I think everyone was a bit low on West Ham. I had them finishing 16th, which I think is still reasonable. But yeah, they just haven't shown that off-field drama has really come onto the field. They beat Arsenal, and albeit pretty luckily, they kind of hung on to that victory in the end. But they smashed Wolves, they smashed Leicester. Nothing flukish about those two. So very impressive performances there. They've actually underperformed on expected points. So they were lucky with the Arsenal match, but overall they've almost been unlucky. And their defence is probably the biggest surprise to me. They've had the second best defence in the Premier League on expected goals against, so that's probably something we don't really attribute to West Ham too often, but fair play to them, that's something they've obviously strengthened, because you'd say they've got quite a few good attacking players, but then their defence lacks a little bit, but they're looking pretty good at the moment. Next up, I know I'll get cancelled if I say the other claret and blue team, but the other, maroon and blue team, or apart from Burnley, Aston Villa. I'm not like riding high on them just because they beat Liverpool 7-2. I did watch that match, and I have to admit, although Villa played well, and I'm quite happy with my prediction of them coming 15th when pretty much everyone was saying they would be bottom 2. It was very lucky. There was about 4 deflections, and one was just like a defence brain snap from Liverpool. But they did deserve to win the match, maybe only like 3-1 or something. But then they pumped Fulham. They were quite lucky against Sheffield to get away with that, but to beat Sheffield, Fulham, Liverpool, to be 3 from 3, defence has been great. They've only conceded 2 goals. It's just looking pretty rosy for Aston Villa. I rated them very high in the transfer window episode as well. I think I had them in 4th. But yeah, it's just looking great at the moment. Their attack looks awesome, and their defence is doing very well too. So yeah, for Aston Villa, it's been a great start to the season. Grealish has picked up where he left off last year. John McGinn's looking good. Matty Cash, their new signing, he's been pretty good at right back. Ross Barkley on debut on the weekend had a bit of a star performance. Ollie Watkins, almost forgot him. He's killed it. And then their 2 centre backs, Constantine and Mings. I think they've both scored a goal, and they're defending very well. So pretty good times up in Aston Villa in Birmingham. But yeah, we'll see how they go from here on in. Because apart from Liverpool, Sheffield have been pretty out of form, and Fulham, look, they're probably not the best team going around, are they? Well, especially before they had that deadline day. So we'll see how they go in the next few games after the international break. But positive spirits down at up in Birmingham. My final team that's impressed me, I've gone Brighton Hove Albion. This is probably a bit of a shock, but because they only have one match out of 4, but I think they've looked pretty good in every single match. They lost to Chelsea when they choked. I think they were up like 3-0 or something, and Chelsea returned 7, scored 4 in the second half. Well, that might have been another match, but they were unlucky. Oh, no, that was another match. Sorry, I think that was Chelsea's second game, but they lost. Yeah, that's right. I think they lost 3-1 to Chelsea on the first weekend, but they had more expected goals than Chelsea in that game. And then they had that bullshit, like, excuse my language, but they had that bullshit game against Manchester United. I think they hit the post 5 times or something. Manchester United just, it infuriates me a little bit because, like, Manchester United playing rubbish, they deserve to lose every game that they have to because, we know eventually they'll just dominate like they always do. But yeah, Brighton deserved to probably win those 2 matches, especially the Man U one. I think they were very unlucky there. And then they did lose 4-2 to Everton, but I think they really pushed them out. I've watched pretty much every Everton game because they've been the early games for us here in Australia. And they're probably the first team that's kind of challenged them a little bit they found a lot of space in the defence, and I think they could have got away on another day if Everton were a little bit off their game. They could have come away with points from that one. And the really impressive thing for Brighton is the attack. A lot of times the teams, Brighton and another team who were tipped to go down by a few people I saw. So a lot of teams down that end of the table, they struggle to score goals. But they've got the fifth best attack in the league at the moment, so that's pretty impressive. They've got quite a few weapons, actually. They've got Morpay, Lamptey's, he looks amazing. No one else is coming to mind. Connolly's up top as well. Trossard looks pretty good this year. I kind of questioned his ability in previous seasons, but he's looked really good this year. It's looking pretty good at Brighton. Now onto the flip side of the coin, most disappointing sides. Look, I know I just talked a little bit of smack about them, but yeah, I've got to double down here. Manchester United, they've just been awful, haven't they? They're 19th in expected points, so there's been no bad luck about it. They've conceded 11 goals in 3 matches. They were beaten by Crystal Palace, who I think, look, no offence to Palace, they've done all right to start the season in terms of results, but I don't have the highest expectations for them this year. I think they've looked pretty average in matches. And then we talked about that match where they somehow escaped with victory over Brighton, but there was a 1.4 expected goal discrepancy, which is absolutely outrageous for anyone who knows anything about expected goals. And they got smashed by Tottenham 6-1. And I know they lost a player, but you still can't be conceding 6 when you're a team, that's meant to be as good as Manchester United. And you would think 11 goals in 3 matches, geez, they must have copped some bad luck. Like, I know Liverpool, their expected goals against is like 5 under how many they've actually conceded, but Man United isn't very far off. So yeah, Man U, look, I do talk a lot of smack about Man U. I had them very low on the transfer window, but honestly, I think a club that size has been pretty embarrassing what they've been putting up recently. And I don't think they'll do that bad. Once again, this always happens in the Premier League. A few of the big teams start bad. A few of the weaker teams start good, and everyone jumps on the train. I remember a year where Hull City, they were like 5th after 6 weeks, and they ended up getting relegated, and everyone was blowing their trumpet at the start, which is all fun to do. But I think we just got to have some common sense about it. I still do think Man U will be top 6, maybe even top 4. But because they always just get hot for 2 months or something, but it's going to be tough for them to get top 4. They've started so poorly. They've only played 3 matches, but to think they've got European football to come and their squad already doesn't look too great. Their starting XI looks good, but on paper, and then you see what they're putting up, and you're kind of worried. Like, if there's a few injuries taken out of that, a few rested players from European football, then how bad are they actually going to look? So I don't know. I just think Ollie is probably easily the most under pressure manager in the Premier League for me. I think. Look, if we're here talking about them in the most disappointing section again, come the 8th of, I'm recording this on the 8th of October, so to say it's the 8th of November and we're talking about them in this section, I think he'll be gone, because I think there's been a few times where he's been close to copping the sack and he just has a good month or something and they hold back, but I don't think it's just Ollie though. I think Ed Woodward's, I think some of his transfer window dealings have been pretty bad, but if you want to hear me talk about the transfer window, go back to the previous episode. I go a lot more in depth into it. Now, the other Manchester team is also in this section, Manchester City. They're 16th in expected points right now. They did beat Wolves, but they got smashed by Leicester and couldn't walk away with the 3 points against Leeds. And to be honest, for them, it's probably more just a watching the match kind of thing. They've just not looked great. I watched that Leicester Man City game and Leicester just embarrassed them really. Every single time Man City turned it over, it was somehow like a 4-on-2. And yeah, I just don't know. Their fullbacks just look pretty bad. Man City, that left back situation needs to be sorted. Apparently they might be giving Ake a crack at left back, but Ben Mendy, I've watched I think it's on Amazon, the documentary. He seems like a funny, boisterous bloke, but yeah, look, he just doesn't know how to defend. And although this Man City team's great, so you don't really need fullbacks who are like a Wan-Bissaka, but you do need someone who can stop the ball sometimes, and he doesn't really produce that. And he doesn't really produce enough on the offense to excuse the defense, where I think Zinchenko's a bit better, but I know he's been injured. So yeah, for me, they're definitely in the most disappointing section. And I know these two teams, they've only played 3 matches, so it's probably a bit harsher to go for them than a team who's played all 4, but yeah, I just don't think it's been great from two of the biggest teams in English soccer at the moment. And my third and final disappointing team is Wolves. I think they've actually, oh no, I'd say Man U first, then Wolves, then City. Wolves, they lost to West Ham 4-0. That's embarrassing. I predicted Wolves to come 5th. I think they underperformed last year and they came about 7th, so maybe 6th. But yeah, that's just poor. Their defence was so good last year. I think they had the 3rd best defence on expected goals against. But yeah, to be coughing up 4 goals to West Ham, and I think expected goals actually had it very close to 4 goals, which is pretty rare. They only beat Fulham 1-0, but Fulham had more expected goals to them than them, so that suggests that they were pretty lucky there. I probably should have explained what the expected goal stat was, but what it is, every shot that's taken, they have a probability that it goes in, and then they add up all those probabilities throughout the 90, and you'll ended up with an expected goals for both teams, and then you work out who should have won. So a lot of factors go into it, like a keeper, defence, the person who takes a shot and stuff like that, but it's usually a pretty good measure of how lucky or unlucky a team's been. And then Wolves got comfortably beaten by Man City, which is usually a pretty fair thing, but City haven't looked great either. And Wolves, they beat one of the other least informed teams in the comp in Sheffield United, who haven't got a win on the board yet. So yeah, it's just not looked too good from Wolves. I don't know. I think they're going to be fine in the long run. Just a little average start to the season. Four pretty bad games from them, but I still think they're a solid chance for top 6. I'm not going on any bullish calls here. There's still 34 matches to go. So yeah, just disappointing start from Wolves. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a very short episode. I'm already like halfway through and it's only 17 minutes in, but we love it. All right, now into the player awards. I've got just best forward, best midfielder, best defender, best goalie. Got a few to talk about for each. Best forward, I think the obvious one is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 6 goals in 4 matches, 4.3 aerials, 1 a game. He's just been scintillating every chance he's had. He's basically finished. I think he also scored a hat-trick in the League Cup or something, but not really taking that into account here. But he's been scintillating. But for me, the number 1 forward has been Son Heung-min of Tottenham. 4th most key passes in the Premier League. 6 goals, 1 assist, and he's only 24th in shots per game, which that's just clinical, really. He's basically scored every shot he's taken. That's dramatic, but pretty close. So yeah, he's been sensational. I remember that Southampton game where, yes, the Southampton defence was deplorable, but it was a debacle. But every time his run was perfect, he was like an inch onside, and then he just tucked it away every single time, no worries. And it just looked too easy. So you automatically look to blame Southampton, but ultimately, Son's made that run and he's tucked it away. So I don't think we can overstate how impressive that is. And then 2 other forwards who I think have been pretty good. Mo Salah, I know it's like a cop-out to put someone of his quality in here, but I think we still do take for granted sometimes how good he is. And yeah, he was even pretty good in the Aston Villa game. Bit of a shining light, and some of his goals are just awesome. And you kind of just go, oh yeah, that's Mo Salah. We expect that, but we need to try not to because it's impressive. And then my other guy is Neil Maupay. I think he scored 4 goals in 4 matches for Brighton. Yes, I did say they have one of the best attacks in the league right now, but ultimately they're not the most skilled team with the ball. So to score 4 goals in a team like that, that's pretty impressive. And I just love the way Maupay plays. He's a real gritty player. He presses hard, creates for everyone else. I just think he's a bit of an unsung hero. And I know it's very early into the season, but I think we could see him move on to bigger and better things next year. because he is such a good talent. Best midfielder, I've got, well, it's tough because it's only been 3 and 4 matches, but I think the obvious one's Hamish, 5 goal involvements, and he's just dominated. 5 goal involvements, yes, that's insane, but if you've actually watched the Everton games, he's probably been even better than that. He's just been scintillating. Some of the passes he's dished up is just incredible. And he's looking like he's almost penciled in as transfer of the year. They got him on a free from Real Madrid. So who knows how long he's going to stay at Everton, but if he can stay there for 2 or 3 years and produce quality football like this could go down as one of the greatest signings of all time. Honestly, Ancelotti and whoever the higher powers are at Everton have pulled off an absolute madness here, because someone a player of his quality to go on a free to a club like Everton, that's just impressive business from them. And then someone else who's only played 3 matches, but Jack Grealish, 6 goal involvements, put on an absolute clinic against Liverpool. It's just picked up where he left off, as I mentioned, in the Aston Villa section. And, I'll be honest, I don't know why he's still at Aston Villa. Maybe he knew they were going to be better this year. But people were predicting them to get relegated. And if I was Jack, I probably wouldn't be taking that risk. I'd go to a safer Premier League team like a Tottenham or something. I know they like him. But respect to him, really. I, myself, would rather see him go somewhere else bigger to see him in, the big games. But realistically, it's actually probably more respectable to stay at your boyhood club or whatever and just become a club legend there and try and keep them in the Premier League for as long as possible. So he's been on fire. KDB, City haven't been great, but 4.7 key passes a game, that's another level. So a key pass is it's a pass that creates a shooting opportunity or a shot. So it's like what a shot to a goal is, what a key pass to an assist is. So that's pretty incredible. And at this point, similar to Salah, we just expect it from KDB, but we've got to try not to because that is insane. And then Calvin Phillips, new boy to the Premier League. Everyone was kind of expecting him to not struggle, but 6.3 tackles and interceptions a match and 1.5 clearances, and then some of his long-range passing is just insane. I think they call him the Yorkshire Perlo or something. But yeah, he just seems like a great bloke, loves the club, goes in hard at the footy, racks up stats, dominates the midfield. He's just the pulse of that side. And yeah, he's a really talented player and deservedly has got recent England call-ups, deservedly so. Now moving on to best defender. Always a bit tough with this, especially in only a few games because they could just have one massive game and their stats are really high. But I've gone Tyrone Mings, 7 clearances per game, 1.3 blocks per game, both insane stats. I think if he kept that up all year, he'd be in the top 5 in Europe for both of those. And I think he scored a goal, which always helps a defender's case, although it's not really what they're meant to be doing. But you'll take that any day. Part of probably the key part of one of the best defences in the country right now. That is England, not here. I think they would be the best defence in Australia, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting. Him and Konsa, the other Aston Villa centre-back, they have high clearance numbers. And I remember Mings did have high clearance numbers last year. So it must be the way they play. They don't go out and meet attackers. They must play very compact. Let the ball come wide. Let them whip it in. And then they get rid of it. Because, they always seem to have inflated clearance numbers and quite low tackles and interceptions. So that's the only logic I could think. I haven't watched them too much, if I'm honest. And then speaking of Aston Villa defence, I'm a big fan of Matty Cash. I've got in my fantasy team, Fantrax EPL. Thought he was going to be a pretty good pickup. I think I mentioned this in the transfer episode, but I think the championship has become quite a good proving ground for some of these young guys. And he's not the youngest, so he's not coming in fragile or anything. So he's killed it straight away. 5.3 tackles and interceptions, 4.7 clearances and 1.3 key passes. So he's doing it both ends of the field, and I think he's going to turn out to be a great signing for them. And then finally for defenders, I've got Fabian Balbuena of West Ham. He's averaging 6 tackles and interceptions a game and 5 clearances, and also once again in one of the best defences in the league at the moment. So fair play to everyone I've just mentioned there. They've been sensational. And finally, best goalkeeper, I've gone Emiliano Martinez. So a lot of Aston Villa love here, but they have been great. They signed him from Arsenal for about 17 mil, but that's already looked to have paid off. He saved a penalty, and he on debut, I believe, and he's saved the highest amount of expected goals. So I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but basically, he's like it kind of does make sense. But he's out of all the shots, I don't even know how to explain it, but if I just say it slowly, it might make sense. He saved the highest amount of expected goals. So he's just preventing things that have a high chance of going in, basically. So yeah, he's killing it. I've kind of mentioned the previous episode a few times, so yeah, feel free to go check out the transfer window, like, subscribe, rate, and review. I've just got a few more awards to go through, so it is going to be a shorter episode. Best transfers of the year so far. Look, I mentioned it before, it's got to be James Rodriguez. He's arguably been player of the month, and for him to have come on a free, that's just awesome. Other guys I've mentioned here that are new signings, Matty Cash, I think he's been a bit of not an unsung hero. It's only been 3 matches of the season, but Jack Grealish, John McGinn, Ollie Watkins, they'll get, even Tyrone Mings, they'll get all the headlines for that Aston Villa side, but Matty Cash is just going to quietly do his work, and he's going to kill it, I'm sure, and he has already so far. And then I've gone, this isn't really an award in soccer, but it is in Australian sports, and rugby league and Australian rules, best rookie / rising star. I know he's already played like 7 matches or something, but I've gone Tarek Lamptey. He just really lit up the league. He killed it against Chelsea, and then he killed it again against Newcastle. Newcastle was a bit of the breakout match. He just absolutely tore shreds down that right edge. He's gone a little bit quiet the last match, but yeah, he looks very good. So fast. Does a little bit of, like, he's not going to whip out 13 assists or anything like it in a team like Brighton, but a lot of creativity, and he also can defend. Yeah, he just looks really exciting. And he's come out of the Chelsea Academy, who seem to be one of the best academies in the country, given how many people they produce. And yeah, I just think he's going to be an absolute sensation this season, and he's already, well, I've given him best rising star in the first 4 games, so that pretty much explains it. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today. I think I might be doing another soccer podcast next week, maybe talking about the European League so far, because I've been watching some replays today and stuff. I watched Lazio Inter. That was a cracking game. But yeah, look forward to the international break. There's some key games coming up. Scotland, I'm half Scottish, so a bit of a Scottish national team fan. We've got a playoff match against Israel, a playoff semi-final against Israel for Euro qualifications. I was kind of confident going into it, but it's turned out Stuart Armstrong has tested positive to COVID. So him, as well as Tierney and Christie, they're all out, who are probably 3 of our best players. So I don't like our chances now against the Israeli beast that is Aaron Zahavi of the Chinese Super League. But we'll see how it goes. I think it is Friday morning. Well, maybe Thursday night for those listening in Europe. I don't even know. But yeah, there's some cracking games coming up this weekend. And then next weekend we've got the Merseyside Derby, and I think we've got Manchester City versus Arsenal. So, and maybe the Milan Derby as well. So very excited for that. Next episode of the podcast is going to be an NFL one. So if you like both American football and European football, stay tuned, subscribe, listen to that one. And yeah, thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Peace.